Much indeed. A lot of people put money into the green movement when they invested in those carbon credits, which are sold on the Chicago Climate Exchange. It opened in 2004. By 2008, the credits were selling for $7 apiece, but they're now way down to around 10 cents per credit. We're bringing in Paul Dreesen. He is the Senior Policy Advisor for the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow. He joins us on the phone. Paul, thanks for joining us. We've concentrated on global warming, the corporate aspect, the scientific aspect, the diplomatic aspects. I want you to tell us about the money, because it seems to me that these carbon credits have crashed. Is that accurate?
Well, they actually have. It's essentially a commodities futures market for carbon based on the idea that we're going to restrict carbon and access to carbon. And as Richard Lindzen from MIT says, if you control carbon, you control life. So the expectation for a lot of these folks was that the price of carbon was going to keep going up as we restricted the access to fossil fuel-based energy and imposed a cap-and-trade program. But it became apparent after a while that nothing really was going to happen. It was bogged down in the Senate. Copenhagen crashed, and then we had ClimateGate, followed by one scandal after another over the so-called science by the International Climate Change Panel for the UN. Well, so the market just collapsed.
That was the word I was looking at, the word collapse. If you go from $7 per carbon credit and you crash all the way down to 10 cents, that's a market which is not functioning. Would that be accurate?
That's partly accurate, but I think the other thing to keep in mind is this is not your typical commodities futures market where you're dealing with something real and tangible like pork bellies or corn or whatever. This was a kind of a fantasy market.
Paul, I want to interrupt you because I want to bring a big name into this, and that is Al Gore. We have heard that he's got a trading company of some sort that trades these kind of carbon credits. Is that accurate? And what's happened to his money?
Well, I don't know what's happened to his money, but he does have something called Generation Investment Management, which is his firm that trades in carbon. So that's probably taken a bath as well. We haven't heard much or seen much of Al Gore lately, but the fact is, when what he's tried to promote, besides his climate catastrophe ideas, is the notion that when he flies his private jets and takes his limousines and has this house that uses many times more energy than the average American home, he is offsetting that carbon use by buying carbon offsets, but he buys them from his own company. So it's out of one pocket and into the other pocket. And meanwhile, what he is pushing is something that is going to hurt jobs and businesses and families all over the United States, and applied on a global scale, really hurt people in countries like in Africa, which do not have electricity. 95% of the people in sub-Saharan Africa don't have electricity.
All right, Paul Dreesen bringing us up to date on the financing of these carbon credits and using the word collapse with the Chicago Climate Exchange. Paul, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me. Back to the